beloved child. I know there have been moments you mistook silence for abandonment. You thought that when your prayers seemed to fall into an unanswering sky, I had turned away. But listen carefully. Silence is not always absence. Sometimes, it is the language of trust. I was never far from you, not for a second. I was building in you what couldn't be built in noise. I was weaving something sacred in the depths where only stillness can reach. You didn't know it. But while you thought I was distant, I was ahead of you, clearing paths, softening hearts, aligning timing with destiny. What looked like closed doors were not denials. They were divine delays designed to protect the weight of what I was preparing in you. You've wondered if you were truly called, if you mattered when no one clapped. But there is a kind of calling that is not announced with applause. It is whispered in the dark. It is sealed when no one sees. And you, my child, were chosen in the quiet. Chosen not because you were ready, but because I am the one who makes you ready. You don't have to perform to be embraced. You don't need to impress to be held. My love is not a reward. It is your beginning. And so, when you fell apart in secret, I was there. When you smiled through tears, I was collecting each one. When you doubted your worth, I never once questioned my choice. I called you mine long before you called me Lord. I saw you stay when walking away was easier. I saw you keep giving when no one said thank you. I saw your tired yes when your strength was gone. And that, beloved, is courage. That is faith. That is the kind of heart I trust with heaven's blueprints. The stillness you feel now is not the absence of progress. It is the sound of deep foundations being laid. The world rewards visibility, but I reward endurance. You are not being delayed. You are being deeply rooted, and roots always grow downward before they rise. Others may run ahead, their paths filled with visible milestones, but yours is deeper. Yours is different, because the weight of what you carry requires more than speed. It requires substance, and substance is born in the secret place. So don't compare your timeline to theirs. What I'm building in you is not a replica. It's a revelation. This in-between place, the season where nothing seems to move, this is holy ground. This is where your character is shaped, where your discernment is sharpened, where your inner world becomes strong enough to carry what's coming. I know the tears you've cried behind closed doors. I know the mornings you woke up praying for a sign. I know the nights you went to sleep asking if anything you were doing mattered at all. And today I want you to hear me clearly. You have never disappointed me. You've questioned yourself. You've doubted your timing. You've tried to shrink your dreams to protect your heart. But I have never once looked at you with disappointment. I've looked at you with joy, with compassion, with pride. Because even when your hands were trembling, your heart still whispered, yes. You are not a failure. You are not a mistake. You are not a problem I'm trying to fix. You are a vessel I'm preparing. Everything you thought disqualified you, I'm using. Every scar, every detour, every unanswered prayer has been part of the formation, and nothing has been wasted. You've wondered why things haven't changed yet. But sometimes I withhold not out of punishment, but out of mercy. What you called rejection, I called redirection, not away from purpose, but deeper into it. What you lost, I saw as making room. What you called delay, I saw as protection. You asked me to move, but first I moved in you. And now the ground is shifting, not because you pushed harder, but because the time I appointed has arrived. This is not the end of your waiting, it's the beginning of your unfolding. Don't let shame follow you into what I'm giving you next. Don't carry the baggage of disappointment into a season that has been marked by fulfillment. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not disqualified. You are being released. Released from pressure to prove, from fear of being overlooked, from anxiety about missing your moment. You have not missed it. You are stepping into it, not with striving, but with surrender. This is not a season of promotion for applause. It is a season of obedience for impact. The very places that once resisted you will now open before you, not because you forced them to, but because you've been refined to fit them. You won't need to demand attention. The fragrance of my presence in you will announce your arrival. You are not who you were. You have changed. You carry peace now, not the kind that comes from circumstances, but the kind that remains when nothing makes sense. That peace will become a doorway for others. Your life will be a sign, a sanctuary, a sound that others recognize even if they don't yet have language for it. What's coming will not feel loud at first. It will begin softly, like alignment, like clarity, like peace, returning where confusion once ruled. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Do not dismiss the subtle shifts. Do not rush the unfolding. The work I've begun in you was never meant to stay hidden, but it was meant to be holy. And now, the veil is lifting. The sound of heaven is aligning with the rhythm of your life, not because you performed perfectly, but because you said yes when no one else saw. Stay low. Stay close. Stay surrendered. You don't have to prove you are ready. Your surrender tells me you are. And this next part, it won't be fueled by your hustle. It will be sustained by your intimacy with me. Return to the secret place. Return to stillness. Return to presence. Not just for inspiration, but for instruction. Not just to feel better, but to live fuller. I will meet you there, not with demands, but with direction. I'm not giving you more to do, I'm giving you a new way to be. Rooted, present, filled, not chasing outcome but carrying identity. Not performing for attention, but walking in alignment. You're not stepping into this season empty-handed. You are stepping in with a different authority, a quieter confidence, a sacred boldness that doesn't shout, but transforms the atmosphere it enters. So go gently, go faithfully, go fully, not because you figured it all out, but because you've returned to me. You are not a person waiting to be noticed. You are the one I chose. You are not begging to be seen. You are the one I marked. You are not proving your worth. You are the one I called before the victory. Now walk forward. The evidence will follow. My child, now that you have stepped beyond the silence, beyond the ache, beyond the questions that once circled like shadows around your faith, I want to talk to you about the fire. Not the fire that scorched, but the fire you carry. Yes, you carry fire now. It is not the kind that rages to be noticed. It is the kind that warms without burning, that steadies without shouting. It is the kind of fire that only comes from walking through your own ashes and realizing you're still alive. Not in pieces, not in survival mode, but with a soul rebuilt from surrender. You didn't get here by accident. You didn't arrive here by force. You got here by staying close when it would have been easier to grow cold. You got here by choosing hope when disappointment was easier. You got here by saying yes. Not once, but again and again and again. That yes has become a sound in the spirit that cannot be erased. And every yes you gave in secret has echoed into eternity, louder than any platform could amplify. Now I want you to carry this fire with intention. You don't have to light up every room with performance. You are not a lighthouse by force. You are a living flame by design. And flames, when nurtured, draw people not by effort, but by warmth. You don't have to push your way into destiny. You are already inside the story I've written. The next chapter will not open because of how hard you knock. It will open because you are holding the right key, obedience. And no, not perfection. I've never demanded that. I've asked for faithfulness. So stay faithful, even in the little things, especially in the little things. Because greatness in my kingdom is not loud, it's consistent. Say the kind word even when your voice trembles. Show up when no one else does. Pray for those who would never return the favor. And most of all, let me into the parts of your life that still feel too fragile to show anyone else. Let me into the dreams you've hidden, the fears you've justified, the longings you've silenced because they seemed too heavy to carry. Let me into your story, not just as the author, but as the friend who sits with you between the chapters. You've often wondered what power looks like in my kingdom. It doesn't look like control. It looks like trust. It doesn't look like always knowing the answer. It looks like still showing up when you don't. It doesn't look like always being certain. It looks like saying, I'll go, even with trembling hands. So don't wait until you feel more ready. Don't wait until the crowd approves. Don't wait until it makes perfect sense. Walk with me now, in the already, not just in the not yet. And as you walk, you'll notice something strange. The roads that once resisted you will feel softer. The places that once overwhelmed you will feel familiar. That's not because they've changed, it's because you have. You no longer walk as one hoping for permission. You walk as one who's already been sent. There will be moments where fear tries to whisper again. Don't be surprised. Fear doesn't vanish when purpose arrives. It just loses its volume when truth takes its place. And the truth is, you are not the abandoned. You are not the uncertain. You are not the forgotten. You are the flame I lit in the dark. You are the answer to prayers you don't even know were prayed. You are my chosen. Not because of your strength, but because of your surrender. So when you step forward into the places I'm opening, don't step in with striving. Don't step in needing to impress. Step in as one who knows who sent you. Step in as one who carries me, not just in words, but in presence. And yes, there will be opposition. Not everyone will understand this version of you. Some will try to pull you back to an old rhythm. Some will ask you to explain your peace. Some will wonder why you no longer carry their burdens for them. But you are not responsible to shrink to make others comfortable. You are responsible to stay in alignment with me. You can love them without becoming smaller. You can serve them without losing yourself. I didn't call you to abandon humility. I called you to walk in holy confidence. The kind that knows you don't have to raise your voice to carry weight. The kind that doesn't hustle to be seen, because you know you're already known. So carry this flame like it matters, because it does. It's not just a symbol, it's a commissioning. It's my spirit alive in you, reminding the world that there is still light that cannot be put out. You are not walking toward your purpose, you're walking with it. So breathe again, bless again, speak life again. You are not here by accident. You are not rising late. You are not stepping out of season. You are right on time. You are fire forged in silence. You are light rising in hidden places. You are called before the crowd ever noticed. And you, my child, will carry my glory quietly, faithfully, boldly. My child, now that you carry the fire, now that your soul has begun to remember what it means to breathe without striving, to walk without explaining, to believe without proof, I want you to learn something even deeper. How to walk like it's already yours. Not as if you are begging for favor, not as if you are testing the ground, but as one who knows the ground has already been given. This next part of your journey will not look like the last, because now you are not moving by desperation. You are moving by revelation. You've spent long seasons asking, what if I fail? But now I'm asking you, what if you fly? What if the reason it felt heavy was not because you were wrong, but because you were being strengthened to carry something others could not. What if the delay didn't mean denial, but meant design? You see, everything I've allowed with precision. Not one trial was random. Not one wilderness was wasted. I've used it all. I still am. Even the things you think are too broken, too small, too scattered. I know the moments you thought maybe I missed it, but I tell you now, you didn't miss it. You didn't miss your moment. You didn't mess it up. The enemy tried to convince you that your mistakes made you disqualified, but I see your heart, and your heart still says yes. And in my kingdom, a surrendered yes always outweighs a perfect record. So now, walk. Walk like the one who was chosen. Walk like the one who was refined in fire. Walk like the one who doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. But walk gently. Don't rush. Don't push. There is strength in your softness now. There is wisdom in your silence. There is anointing in your awareness. Let me walk with you in the mornings again. Let me shape your thoughts before the world does. Let me lead your reactions before fear does. You've learned how to survive. Now I'm teaching you how to abide. I want you to start your days with me, not out of pressure, but out of pleasure. I want to be the first voice you hear, not just in emergency, but in intimacy. Not as a solution, but as your source. And in this next stretch of your story, I want you to carry a quiet authority, not the kind that needs to announce itself, but the kind that shifts atmospheres by walking into the room. Yes, some doors will open unexpectedly. Yes, some alignments will make no earthly sense. Yes, there will be favor that feels faster than logic allows. But do not let speed startle you. Do not let blessing distract you. Stay rooted, stay clear, stay near. Because even in acceleration, you are called to walk at the pace of peace. Don't measure your success by what they post. Measure it by what I whisper. Don't chase the spotlight. Chase the stillness where your soul is anchored. Because that stillness, that's where I speak. That's where you'll hear me clearest, and that's where you'll remember. You were never striving for this. You were simply returning to it. This season is not a promotion. It is a homecoming, a coming back to who you truly are, a coming back to what I always intended, a coming back to presence over pressure, to purpose over performance. And yes, there will still be days where you feel unsure. There will still be moments where fear creeps in, whispering familiar lies, but this time you'll know what to do. You won't bow, you'll breathe, you won't spiral, you'll listen, you won't run, you'll remain. Because now, you know, my voice. Now you recognize my pace. Now you've seen what happens when you trust even in silence. So don't doubt it now. Don't shrink when they misunderstand. Don't edit yourself to make others comfortable. You've walked through too much to go back to that version of you. You've been through fire and you didn't come out smelling like smoke. You came out carrying glory. So now, live from that place. Not with pride, but with purity. Not with ego, but with expectation. Live like someone who knows heaven is backing their every step. Live like someone who understands that favor was never the goal, it was the fruit of alignment. Live like someone who remembers you were called before the victory. You were marked in the silence. You were trusted in the wilderness. You are now being sent, not just to build, but to become. My child, now that you've begun to walk with confidence, now that the fire you carry no longer flickers with fear, it's time you understand something deeper. You are not just called to rise. You are called to lead. But not the kind of leading the world celebrates. Not leading from platforms, position, or pride. You were formed to lead from the secret place. You were fashioned in the quiet so you could carry a kind of guidance that cannot be taught, only lived. A kind of leadership that doesn't command attention, but carries weight. That doesn't chase applause, but carries peace. Because the ones I trust to lead are not those who rise the fastest, but those who wait the longest. The ones who don't rush into rooms, they are invited into them. The ones who don't speak to impress, but to release truth. Gently, clearly, faithfully. You see, leadership in my kingdom is not about visibility. It's about influence that is birthed in intimacy. And you, my child, have learned intimacy in a way many avoid. You've walked with me not because it was convenient, but because it was essential. You've led yourself through valleys when no one was watching. You've chosen to believe me when your eyes saw nothing, and now I'm placing others around you who need what I formed in you. They won't always say it. They may not even know what they're drawn to, but it will be your presence, not your perfection, that ministers to them. So be gentle with those I send your way. Remember how much it hurt to feel unseen? They feel that now. Remember how confusing it was to trust in silence? They're in that season. Remember how deeply you longed for someone to say you're not crazy for still believing? Now you are that voice. Not because you have all the answers, but because you know what it means to keep walking anyway. That's what real leadership is. Walking slowly enough for others to follow, listening deeply enough to hear what no one else says, staying soft enough to reflect my compassion, but strong enough to not compromise what's true. And I know what you're thinking. But God, I'm still healing. I'm still learning. I'm still unsure. Yes. And that's exactly why I trust you. Because those who know their own need for me never lead from ego. They lead from empathy. They don't try to be saviors. They point others back to the only one who saves. That's the kind of leader you are becoming. One who doesn't just echo my words, but embodies my ways. One who doesn't just talk about love, but lives it in silence, in service and sacrifice. And let me be clear, leading doesn't mean being loud. It doesn't mean having control. It doesn't mean always being right. It means staying aligned with me, publicly, privately, and consistently. And that consistency? It will be your testimony. The way you remain when others run. The way you forgive without being asked. The way you speak peace into storms not even your own. That's the kind of leading the world is hungry for, even if it doesn't have the language to name it. So no, you don't need a title. Your testimony is already enough. No, you don't need a platform. Your posture speaks louder. No, you don't need credentials. You carry authority born in the wilderness, sealed in surrender. You've been entrusted not because of charisma, but because of character. So lead quietly. Lead honestly. Lead without trying to prove anything. Let me defend you, promote you, protect you. And when others ask how you got here, don't boast. Bow. Let your leadership begin and end in worship. Let your decisions be shaped by my whisper, not public opinion. Let your love be inconvenient, costly, and pure. Let your influence grow slowly, deeply, and unshakably. And above all, keep returning to me. Because what you pour out in public will only stay clean if it's drawn from private wells. Your power is not your knowledge, it's your nearness. The enemy won't fear your ideas, he fears your intimacy. Stay close, child, because I'm not just giving you influence, I'm giving you legacy. And legacy is not built in moments, it's built in the margins. It's carved in the places no one celebrates. It's written in how you treat people who can give you nothing. In return, that's the kind of leader I'm raising you into. You don't need to ask me to use you, I already am. Not someday. Not eventually. Now. And as you pour into others, don't forget, I'm still pouring into you. This isn't the end of your formation. It's the next layer of your becoming. So lead slowly. Lead with love. Lead like someone who still kneels every morning before they speak. And remember, you're not leading for me. You're leading with me. And where I go, I carry you with me. Always.
My child, I know you've begun to lead. I know you've stepped into spaces where your voice carries weight, where your presence shifts the room. I know people now look to you for strength, but there's something I see that they don't. I see the silent ache you still carry. I see the weight of betrayal that hasn't fully left. I see how you've learned to smile while bleeding. And I want to speak to that version of you, the one who shows up anyway, the one who pours into others while feeling empty, the one who keeps giving, not because it's easy, but because you've chosen love over bitterness. You see, many people want purpose, but few understand the cost of it. Purpose will take you through misunderstanding. Calling will carry you through loneliness. Obedience will break your heart in places comfort never could. And still, you've stayed. You've stayed in rooms that didn't honor you. You've stayed in conversations that wounded you. You've stayed available to people who only saw your gift, but never your grief. And I want you to hear me clearly. You are not weak for feeling this. You are not broken because it still hurts. You are human. You are tender. You are honest. And that is holy to me. I never asked you to become numb. I asked you to become real, to live with a heart that stays open even when it would be easier to shut it down. Yes, there have been moments when you were wrongly accused, when you were left out of the room you helped build, when your silence was misread as guilt and your presence was taken for granted. But child, I saw it all. And I want you to know, I'm not just using you, I'm healing you. I'm not just asking you to keep going. I'm sitting with you while you rest. I'm not just expecting leadership from you. I'm pouring compassion into the cracks they can't see. You've wondered, why does it still hurt if I've forgiven? Why do I feel invisible to the people I gave everything to? Why do I carry their burdens but walk home alone? And here is my answer. Because you carry my heart. And my heart has been misunderstood too. My love has been rejected. My intentions have been questioned. My goodness has been doubted by the very ones I came to rescue. But I never stopped loving, and neither have you. That is not a weakness. That is a mirror. You look like me when you choose mercy over revenge. You look like me when you protect someone's name even after they stained yours. You look like me when you choose to believe the best, even when you've seen the worst. And yes, I know. Sometimes it feels unfair. You've seen others rise by cutting corners. You've watched people chase influence and gain it while you've waited in shadows. You've been passed over and you've stayed kind. And yet I say to you again, you are not behind. You are protected because the purity of what I'm building in you requires delay. Not to punish you, to preserve you. Some platforms can crush the unprepared soul. Some relationships can distort your discernment. Some opportunities are not as divine as they appear, and I love you too much to let popularity compromise your purpose. So if you're still wondering why some doors stayed shut, why some people never came back, why some chapters ended without closure, let this be your peace. I was guarding the weight of your heart. Not every friendship was rejection. Some were redirection. Not every silence was abandonment. Some were sacred training grounds. Not every goodbye was betrayal. Some were heaven's way of keeping your soul intact. We are not less spiritual because you still cry. You are not less cold because you still wrestle. You are not less strong because you need time to heal. You are human. You are holy, you are still held. So don't rush through this ache, don't force it into silence. Let me meet you here, right in the middle of the unresolved, the unspoken, the unfinished. Because this pain, it is not the end of your story, it is the shaping of your legacy. You're learning how to love like I do, without condition, without guarantees, without needing it to be returned. And yes, that love might cost you, but I promise, it will never return. Void. You may not see the harvest today, you may not get the thank you card, you may never be applauded for the pain you carried in private. But heaven has recorded it all, and I have never once overlooked the tears you cried in secret. So let your healing be slow. Let your rebuilding be sacred. Let your heart break open just enough for my presence to flood in again. Because what I'm doing in you is deeper than vindication. It's transfiguration. You are not just recovering. You are becoming. And what you're becoming cannot be undone.
My child, you've fought long and well. You've endured the fire, walked through shadows, led with gentleness while bleeding in silence. You've clung to truth when lies felt louder. You've held on when letting go would have been easier. But now I am calling you into something deeper. Not another battle, not another assignment, but surrender. Not the kind the world associates with weakness, but the kind that heaven recognizes as strength. Because true healing, it doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from letting go. Letting go of the idea that you must always be strong. Letting go of the need to have answers before you rest. Letting go of the pressure to hold everything together just so others can feel safe around you. You've been strong for so long, haven't you? Strong in the storm. Strong in the silence. Strong in the spaces where no one asked if you were okay. But child, you were never created to carry everything alone. Even strength, when disconnected from surrender, becomes a burden. So here, now, in this moment, lay it down. Not your calling, not your faith, not your identity, but the weight, the tension that sits behind your eyes, the pressure that rests in your chest, the ache that lingers in your back after too many days spent trying to be enough. Let me show you something. You don't need to strive for healing. You only need to let me touch the places you keep hidden. You see, I don't just want your performance. I want your presence. I don't just want your words. I want your wounds. I want access to the parts of your heart you still brace with armor, the memories you've learned to keep at a distance, the expectations you buried because you were afraid to hope again. You've done the brave work of showing up in pain. Now do the braver work. Let me hold it. That shame you carry like a scar that won't fade. Let me rewrite it. That guilt that whispers you should have done more, should have healed faster, let me silence it. That fear that if you stop performing, people will stop seeing you. Let me dismantle it with truth. You were never loved for what you could do. You are loved because you are mine. And healing is not the reward for being strong. Healing is the result of being still enough to be seen. So slow down, breathe deeply. Weep, if you must. Rest if you can. Fall apart in my arms if you need to, because you won't be abandoned here. You won't be shamed for struggling. You won't be met with, fix it faster. You'll be met with me, and I am gentle. I am kind. I am near to the brokenhearted, not just the bold. I am drawn to the vulnerable, not just the victorious. I know you thought healing would come when things changed, when the pain lessened, when people finally apologized, when circumstances caught up with the prayers you prayed. But the truth is, healing comes when you surrender your timeline and trust mine. When you stop needing the whole path to be visible, before you rest in the next step. When you finally believe that I'm not in love with your strength, I'm in love with your surrender. And in that surrender, I will restore what effort never could. Peace that cannot be stolen. Joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. Security that remains even when understanding doesn't. You were not created to heal yourself. You were created to be held while I heal. You so let me. Not once, not in crisis, but every day, in every breath, in every moment where your soul tenses again. I'm not asking you to be less courageous. I'm asking you to trust that your greatest courage is found when you lay your sword down and say, I need you. Let your tears be your prayer. Let your exhale be your worship. Let your silence become space where I can speak again. You've walked through the fire. Now let me bring water to the places still scorched. Let me breathe life into the places that forgot how to hope. Let me gather the fragments and fashion something whole, not despite the cracks, but through them. Because in my kingdom, broken doesn't mean discarded. It means ready. Ready for intimacy. Ready for rest. Ready for a rhythm not shaped by pressure, but by presence. So surrender, child, not in defeat, but in freedom. This is how healing begins, and I promise you, what I begin in surrender, I will finish in glory. My child, now that you've begun to surrender, now that your hands are no longer clenched around what you were never meant to carry, I want to lead you into something even deeper, something more tender, more personal, more defining. We need to talk about the names you've believed, the ones no one gave you out loud, but you've worn them like skin. Names whispered in the silence, carved quietly into your identity when you were most vulnerable. Names like too much, too late, not enough, forgotten, unqualified, unwanted, hard to love. I saw the exact moment each one of those lies tried to attach itself to your soul. They didn't come through strangers, they came through trusted places, wounds wrapped in familiar voices, moments where you were most open and most misread. And you didn't shout the lie aloud, you absorbed it in silence. You tried to prove it wrong by working harder. You tried to outrun it by achieving more. You tried to quiet it by pretending you didn't care. But it never fully left, did it? It lingered behind your smile. It echoed in your hesitation. It lived in the pauses before you said yes. And worst of all, it crept into the way you saw yourself, as if these false names were somehow part of your DNA. But hear me now, with every bit of truth I can speak into you. Those lies are not your name, they never were. They were projections, they were distortions, they were shadows that tried to block the light of who you truly are. But I have never called you by any of them. I've never called you a mistake, I have never called you inadequate, I have never called you invisible. Even in your worst hour, when shame felt heavier than your faith, I was still calling you mine, beloved, chosen, whole, held, enough, becoming. And I'm not asking you to pretend those labels didn't hurt. I am asking you to let me replace them one by one. Let me peel them off like old garments. Let me speak louder than the voices in your past, louder than the silence that was mistaken for rejection, louder than the inner critic you've grown so used to, you started calling it discernment. My voice doesn't shame, it restores. My voice doesn't accuse, it anoints. My voice doesn't diminish you, it reveals you. And what I reveal is not damaged goods, not a second choice, not someone trying to catch up. What I see in you is original design, not what the world tried to rewrite, not what trauma tried to distort, not what religion tried to sanitize, but who you were before the wound. before the lie, before you learned to edit yourself for love that was never real. Let me show you your true name again. You are radiant, even when you feel dull. You are wise, even when you still have questions. You are steady, even when your hands tremble. You are set apart, even when you don't feel seen. You are marked by heaven, even when the world gives you no stage. You are not what left you. You are not what betrayed you. You are not what they couldn't understand. You are who I imagined before the foundations of the world. You are the one I've never stopped speaking over. You are the one I keep coming back for. Not because you're broken, but because you're mine. So now, let me walk you back to the places where you picked up these false names. Let me kneel with you at the memories, not to re-wound you, but to rewrite them. Let me enter the room where your worth was questioned. Let me sit beside the silence that felt like abandonment. Let me unname the lie that told you your softness was a weakness. Because, my child, you don't need to fight to be seen anymore. You are already known. You don't need to strive to be accepted. You are already loved. You don't need to prove you're not too much. You are perfectly measured. For the exact purpose I created. You for now rise, not with armor forged from pain, but with identity wrapped in peace. Rise, not to perform, but to live. Rise, not to answer every critic, but to echo every truth I've ever whispered into your being. You've outgrown the lies, and now you are returning to your name. My child, I know there are days when you struggle to believe you belong. Not because you doubt me, but because you doubt yourself. You've heard my promises. You've seen my faithfulness. But still, when you look at your reflection, you hesitate. You see the cracks. You feel the weight. You remember all the times you questioned, avoided, disqualified yourself. And yet, I chose you. Not after you fixed yourself. Not after you found clarity. Not after you proved anything. I chose you first. I chose you when you still second-guessed your voice, when you still shrunk yourself to make others comfortable, when you doubted whether the dream in your heart was too much or too late. Didn't wait for you to feel ready. I didn't wait for you to believe in yourself. I didn't wait for your yes to love you. I chose you before you knew what being chosen even meant. Because that's how love works in my kingdom. It goes first. It doesn't need credentials, it doesn't check resumes, it doesn't flinch at your flaws, it simply says, I want you, I delight in you, I have called you by name and you are mine. Even when you only saw weakness, I saw wonder. Even when you only felt fear, I felt your faith underneath it. Even when you told yourself you weren't enough, I whispered, but I am. You've spent so long trying to become worthy of calling, but you forgot. I called you because I love you, not because you qualified. You are not a backup plan. You are not an afterthought. You are not barely making it. You are the one I handpicked for this moment, the one I trusted with this fire, the one I knew would rise, even after breaking. And yes, I knew the war you'd have to fight inside. I knew the voices you'd have to silence. I knew the healing you'd need before you'd fully believe me, but I still said, that one. I want that one. I didn't choose you for your perfection. I chose you because of your posture, because your heart, even while afraid, was still facing me, because your soul, even while aching, still reached for something more. That quiet reaching, that trembling yes, that small voice that said, maybe, just maybe I was made for more. That's what I built this whole journey on. I am not waiting for a better version of you to emerge. I'm walking with the real you, right here, right now, the version that still wrestles, the version that still flinches at old fears, the version that shows up even when belief is a whisper, not a roar. I don't despise your doubt. I don't recoil from your questions. I don't need you to pretend. I only need your presence. Because transformation doesn't happen when you finally have control. It happens when you finally surrender your hiding. And I see the way you've been trying to outrun the shadow of your past. I see the way you've hesitated to embrace joy, as if pain was the only place you were allowed to belong. But joy is your inheritance too. Laughter is holy. Rest is not. A reward for getting it right. It's your birthright as one who is loved. So now let me say it again, I chose you. I still choose you. I choose you when you're confident. I choose you when you're confused. I choose you when you're winning. I choose you when you're weeping. I choose you, not because you shine, but because you're mine. So stop trying to become who you think I want. I already see who you truly are. Not the version shaped by shame or fear or performance, but the version formed in my breath. The version saturated in eternity. The version that existed in my heart before you were ever formed, in your mother's womb. That version still lives, still waits, still matters. So take my hand, beloved. You don't have to find your way back to worth. You never left it. You don't have to audition for my affection. You've already been adopted. You don't have to clean yourself up to be chosen. You were chosen to be made whole. This is not your backup life. This is your beloved life. The one I called, the one I blessed, the one I am still unfolding in glory. And even if you never fully choose yourself, know this: I will keep choosing you every morning, every moment, every chapter, until you finally see yourself the way I've always seen you. Not unfinished, not uncertain, but mine. My child, now that your name has been reclaimed, now that you've begun to release the lies and walk in what is true, there's something you must understand about healing. Restoration does not begin in celebration. It begins in the quiet, not in the applause, not in the recognition, not in the breakthrough others can see. It begins in the still unseen places, in the early morning silence where your soul stretches again for hope, in the quiet moments where you choose to believe me again, even when nothing around you has changed. That's where the restoration starts, not with noise but with notice. When you begin to notice the shift, not in your circumstances, but in your response. When you catch yourself not reacting the way you used to. When you see the same wound but no longer bleed at its touch. When you feel joy creep in slowly, uninvited, unexpected, but no longer foreign. That is the sacred beginning of restoration. It is not dramatic. It is not instant. It is not always clear, but it is always holy. You see, I do not rebuild with the hands of hurry. I rebuild with the hands of a potter. I restore with intention, layer by layer, truth upon truth. Because what I'm restoring in you isn't just what was broken, it's what was always meant to be whole. I'm not simply putting you back together. I'm revealing the design you carried before you ever cracked, and that takes time. That takes tenderness. That takes a stillness the world may never understand. So don't rush it. Don't despise the slow, because every day you wake up and choose peace over panic, healing is happening. Every time you respond with grace instead of guardedness, healing is happening. Every moment you dare to hope again, even just a little, healing is happening. Restoration is not about returning to who you were. It's about becoming who you've never yet had the safety to be. And I am that safety. Not a concept, not a theory, but a presence. A presence that meets you in the silence, when your strength feels small, when your faith flickers, when your eyes look around and wonder, is anything really changing? Yes, beloved, it is. Not outside, inside. And what I build on the inside will last longer than anything you could build on the outside, because it's not rooted in applause. It's not built on momentum. It's not tied to results. It's rooted in me, unshaken, unhurried, unchanging. So if this feels like a season of slowness, if it feels like others are racing ahead, if it feels like your pace is too small to matter, remember this. The deepest roots grow in silence, and you, my child, are growing deeper than you realize, deeper in patience, deeper in discernment, deeper in joy that's not dependent on circumstance, deeper in wisdom that only stillness can cultivate. I'm not preparing you for a moment. I'm preparing you for longevity. I'm not giving you a temporary high, I'm giving you a sustainable rhythm, one that can carry storms without crumbling, one that can lead others without losing itself, one that knows how to return, again and again, to me. So keep showing up, keep tending the quiet, keep honoring the small decisions, keep trusting the whispers, because in the kingdom, the quiet is never empty. It is filled with eternal movement. Heaven builds in stillness. I'm not finished with you. I'm just getting started in the places no one sees. And what's forming there is the kind of wholeness that doesn't break when blessing comes, the kind of wholeness that doesn't lose itself when favor arrives, the kind of wholeness that no spotlight can inflate and no shadow can steal. So lean in. Don't resent the quiet. Receive it as the sacred invitation it truly is, the space where you remember who you are, the space where you become steady again, the space where my voice becomes louder than your fear, the space where restoration begins and never ends. My child, you've walked through the fire. You've been refined in silence. You've let go, surrendered, believed again when belief was costly. And now I want you to know something sacred. You are stepping out of the wilderness, out of the weight that once pressed your soul flat, out of the dry season that convinced you were forgotten. This is not just a chapter change. This is a holy crossing. I am leading you from Huangmak, dry, cracked places where you learn to survive, into a place of flow, where you will learn how to live again. You thought the desert was proof I had withdrawn. But child, I was there in every grain of silence. I was not distant. I was digging deep. I was expanding your capacity, not to carry pain, but to carry glory. Now feel it. Do you sense the shift? Not loud, not public, but deep. The ground beneath you is softening. The air around you is shifting. The rivers are rising beneath what once felt like stone. You are not going back to what was. You are not being rebuilt into the same version of yourself. You are being resurrected into something completely new. Because when I lead someone through a desert, I do not bring them out as they were. I bring them out as someone the desert could not destroy. And you, beloved, you are proof that my promises do not die in dry places. They only go deeper. What was buried is breaking through. What was silenced is singing again. What was lifeless is beginning to bloom. The desert has done its work. Now let the rivers begin. I am not giving you back what you lost. I am giving you what the desert made room for. New clarity, new joy, new breath in your lungs, new territory that you don't have to fight for, because I already went before you. You don't have to strain, you don't have to force, you don't have to beg. The doors will open because the season has opened, and this season, it will not look like survival. It will look like song, like restoration that runs deeper than explanation, like peace that no longer needs permission to exist. But hear me. Don't let the desert convince you to mistrust the rain. Don't let former barrenness cause you to doubt the fruit. You are not cursed, you are not unlucky. You are not behind, you are right on time, and heaven is already in motion. So walk forward, not like someone wondering if they belong, but like someone sent. Walk like someone watered from within. Let the river rise in your voice. Let the river rise in your prayers. Let the river rise in your eyes when you see how I've been weaving glory through every dry place. The desert was never the destination. It was the preparation. You've been stretched. You've been tested. You've been threshed. But now you will be poured out as living water to others still wandering. Not because of your strength, but because you know where the river begins. And it begins in me. I am not just leading you to a place. I am leading you to my presence, where rivers never run dry. So take one more breath. Lift one more prayer. Step forward again. You are not alone. You are not empty. You are not lost. You are the one I led through the wilderness. You are the one I chose to carry water in barren lands. You are the one I now release, to flow, to speak, to rebuild, to rise. You are coming out of the dry, and I am your river, I am your restoration, I am your home, always.